All right, fellow citizens, welcome back to our weekly Star Citizen coverage, and this is going to be a big one as we have a ton of news and info this time around. 4.1.1 went live a few days ago. We have the patch notes for that to check out. The Invictus launch week is also live, allowing new players to dive into the game and try it for free. 2 new ships have been released, one of which is the Idris P, the largest player-crewed and ownable ship in the game to date, a capital ship. And, of course, because it's CIG, nothing this awesome comes without an equal helping of outrage. So, like I said, we've got a lot to cover, so grab a snack, a drink, and let's get into it. Now, before we get into the patch notes for 4.1.1, keep in mind that we're going over the original release notes for it, but they have been doing server-side hotfixes for some of the issues that some players are encountering in the current live build. I don't know how well these are working or not. Some of the ones that they were talking about, I haven't experienced myself, but they have been slowly but surely taking servers offline and applying these hotfixes and bringing them back on one at a time or a few at a time to spread it out and hopefully not crash the servers. I don't know if these hotfixes are working or not. However, we do know what the patch notes entail and what is currently out with this release. So, with that, we have first off a bunch of multiple new hairstyles. We have the asteroid cluster mining bases. These are both in Stanton and Pyro. Those of you who I think might have watched an episode I did earlier where I did the ship battle and it took me to one of these things. I think I did that in a video. In any case, I did the mission here. It refers to the ship battle version 1 mission where you will go to that. These don't have interiors, but they do have the exteriors, and they'll have turrets and gas tanks for use in various missions. And then they also added the second floor to Wicklo's Imperium and increased the restrictions and armistice zones around the Area 18 Convention Center. Yeah, because people were trying to kill the Idris that was at the top of the ArcCorp Tower. One huge new addition is this here, the unattended vehicle quantum travel system. This is fantastic. You can leave a quantum marker at your ship floating out in space. So those of you, if you have a constellation and you have the Merlin ship, you take it for a spin somewhere, you know where to get back, although it doesn't really count. That ship doesn't have quantum, but you get the gist. A Carrack with the Pisces Explorer. You can leave the Carrack up in atmosphere, take the Explorer down to the surface and all that kind of stuff, and now you'll be able to quantum back to your own ship if need be. This makes living on your ship style gameplay actually possible. This is a massive addition, and it's phenomenally good. I love it. This, of course, brings on, as we already mentioned, the Ship Battle Missions version 1. We talked about this in a previous episode. There are various forms of them, and they're offered by the Foxwell Enforcement for the legal side and the Headhunters for the illegal side. Patrol will have you going around an area of a planet. It will keep you there instead of sending you too much quantum travel time going between the systems or the planets and their bodies. It'll keep you in there, but you'll go to various different points, and this is the one that has the rotating 4 objectives where nothing might happen or you might have to do this or that. That's the patrol missions. These will be offered right now along with ambush missions, again by Foxwell or Headhunters, and in this case you'll actually have to go to a place, find a high emissions area. I tried one of these missions. You have to find a high emissions area somewhere near the mission point and power down your ship and wait for the enemy to arrive, and then you'll jump out and ambush them. Obviously, they will get more difficult as you progress up in reputation, but they are honestly quite a lot of fun. I'm glad to see this addition to the live. The third type of mission is the ghillie combat missions. They're more advanced. These are not tutorial missions. These are missions designed to send you into certain situations you might not normally get into, perhaps, or kind of to give newer players with a handle on flying more of a guide into the different types of combat that they can expect. Like you can see here in the pop-up or the JPEG I got in front of you, you've got single and multiple targets, target priority, stealth, missiles, and countermeasures. It's going to make you go through the process of combat, but it's not going to be a tutorial. You're going to have to figure it out when you get there. I am not sold on how these missions are designed right now. If you are a new player, you don't really know how to fly or whatnot, you get there, it might tell you to do something, but you have no idea how to do it. They're not helpful for that. Again, they are for players who kind of know how to fly already, but haven't dipped their toes into some of this other stuff, I think. That's my impression. And finally, we also have the new Hunt the Polaris mission. This pops up randomly throughout the Stanton system. Everyone can take it. It's supposed to be PvE. You all gang up and try to take out that Polaris and its escorts, and it'll have reinforcements coming in. I have tried this numerous times. I love the idea behind it. The only problem that I'm having is, so far, everyone shows up as a red target. I have no idea who's an enemy and who's not. If I shoot at a red target, it will tell me warning, friendly fire. Like, there's no way to tell sometimes. And other times I've come in just in time to see 3 other Polarises ram the one Polaris. I don't know if this mission is working quite as intended. I see the idea behind it. I think it could be a lot of fun. My biggest gripe is not being able to tell friend from foe. That needs to be fixed. The rest can be this Star Citizen chaos that is the awesome Star Citizen chaos, but that one bug is kind of ruining it for me. Hopefully that one's part of the hot fixes. The repair and animal missions got updated for server meshing and re-added back into the PU. That's why they disappeared for a while. And they've made some gameplay updates to party member markers as well. The Argo Raft got a massive change to its design just to allow for better functionality that has raft players absolutely loving it. They got rid of the 3 arms for cargo that it had underneath and just put in a single cargo grid, and it went from 96 SCU to 192 cargo capacity. And all this required was that they moved the rail style tractor beam to the left side of the ship. This means that the raft got a massive boost in its cargo transportability. It's everyone's favorite ship on social media and the forums right now. Everyone seems to love this adjustment. They also made capital flight ship adjustments to the Polaris, the 890 Jump, and the Reclaimer to make them feel more like ships of their size and to fit more in with their intended roles. I'm not certain about the 890 Jump and the Reclaimer so much, but this was something I really noticed in the PU with the Polaris. It was wildly nimble for a ship of that size. It just did not move like the weighty behemoth it looks like it should be. Yeah, fast for a capital ship, but not as fast and as nimble as it is in game currently. The fact when they adjusted this now, this is a very nice change, and it makes it feel, when you're on it and also when you're observing it from outside in your own ship, it feels more like a capital ship now. They also greatly increased turret and main weapon capacitor ammunitions across many ships. You can see the list here for yourself. They're also testing out some recoil and some audio updates to go with the recoil for certain weapons, certain ship weapons. And because it's enough of a test, even though it's live, there is a option to turn those effects off that has been added to the menus by the sounds of it. But it's for the CF337 Panther repeater, size 4, the ANR-12 cannon, size 4, and the RSI Polaris cannon, along with a bunch of ship and vehicle updates. Disabled proximity assist by default, for example. Muzzle effects of all turrets by the Polaris have been improved. The max range of the size 6 turret guns is increased. The Anvil Valkyrie has greatly increased hull and joint health. This is big because it's a drop ship and it doesn't have enough armor and health to actually survive a hostile drop in a lot of cases. So that's something that was definitely needed. Now, we talked about this in the PU, but now the Volt submachine gun, the Quartz SMG, has been added to 411 as well. And the common thought is that this is the best FPS gun in the game right now. It is just so incredibly good. Do not doubt whatsoever that CIG is going to tone this one down. So if you can find one of these at the Hathor stations or outposts, you get that and some ammo. Hold on to it. Enjoy it while it lasts, because it's really, really good, and I have no doubt it will be toned down. They increased the FPS balance on the Ripper SMG, the Karna, and the Gallant. And here's a very big change that they made to live. The Paramed medical device, the pistol device, uses your pistol slot now. So you have to use it in place of a gun. I actually like it, to be honest. I know some people are going to complain about not having a pistol and 2 weapons on their backpack plus this thing. I don't know. To me, it just simplifies it. It's less of a keybind that you have to worry about. Simplifies it a bit more. I like it. Some might not. Sound off in the comments below what you guys think about it when you try it. If you have already, I'd like to hear from you. They made changes to how parties launch together, so they're more synchronized and have a better chance of actually, deploying and logging into the same server together. They updated the comms, eventually working to getting us to be able to properly see people's faces and animations in our mobiGlass or whatever viewer we have them on the comm channel for. And they've made a bunch of network performance optimizations to help reduce interaction delays. This one is noticeable as well, both in PU and the live build, which this is for the live. And one thing I have to say is that even though it's a free fly event and it's brand new live and Invictus is going on and all that, the servers have been surprisingly stable for me. It's a nice change of pace. The network optimizations and their focus on quality of life and performance this year is really becoming noticeable. Now, Invictus launch week is going right now, and it is still going to continue going for, I believe, the next full week. And players can jump in for free, fly around the ships, but you can go to the Invictus Launch Week Hall, the convention hall in the game, and check out whatever ships are on display for those given days. The rentable ships that you want, you can go over to the kiosks and rent all of the ships that are available. And if there's a ship that you want to try out, you can go and rent it for 1 or 2 days. Free of charge. You don't even have to spend in-game money to get it, and you can go around the universe, fly these ships, try them out however you want. And on the final day of Invictus, there will be an availability of all the ships again, I believe, but at the very least you'll be able to rent them all on the final day for a final 24 hours to give a try to. One of those ships that you will be able to fly around is the new Mirai Guardian MX. It's an updated version of the Guardian, but instead of having the 2 size 5 weapons in the wings that the Guardian has, this one has 4 size 4 weapons and I think a bit more armor. It looks cool as hell. You just have to look at it. It's a TIE fighter. I can't wait to actually give this a try. I haven't done so myself yet. I intend to after I make this video. But that is also going to be in this new 4.1.1 patch, I believe available to buy on the store, along with the Idris if you're that foolish. And speaking of, we now have the Idris in-game. The Idris is the single largest player-ownable ship in the game. It's a capital ship. It requires a base minimum of 12 people to man the weapon systems alone. This is not a solo ship. This is definitely a ship for people with friends and organizations and team gameplay. It's not a solo ship, people. It comes in the P variant, which is going to be different from the one in Squadron 42. And there are also 2 kits available. One that has a front-mounted laser, as the Squadron 42 version is the one with the rail cannon. That's not the one we have. This has the ability to put a kit on it for a laser or a set of torpedo tubes for the main front weapon. I have a tour of this on a previous episode of mine. I will link it in the description below. It is a massive ship. It is hard to describe how big this ship is in-game and how much work must have gone into making something this huge and intricate that just flies around and can be blown to bits, and people are engaging in battles with these things in the persistent universe as I record this very video. It is an epically awesome ship, combined with the 4.1.1 release going quite as well as it has, some issues notwithstanding, the Invictus launch week for a free fly, and it's still running well, the Mirai Guardian dropping in, and now we have this Idris. I mean, this thing is huge. This is the ship that we are going to spend the vast majority of our time in Squadron 42 as well. This is another one of those examples of assets from Squadron 42 carrying over into the persistent universe. Now, CIG says there's a big enough difference between the in-game ship that we're going to be part of and the one being released to players right now that nothing is a spoiler. But we've also seen this ship in game and been able to tour it before. But here it is, it's in game. It is stupidly expensive to buy. Don't buy this, people, unless you have vast amounts of wealth that you can afford to toss away and burn. Like, I'm not going to get into it. In any case, for those who do want to buy it, it is available in game. And while it is available to purchase for real money on the store, it will become available for purchase with in-game credits very shortly down the road, within a few months' time, at most, I believe. Yes, you will have to grind like hell to get it, but you will be able to get it. But in any case, this is all made for a phenomenal patch drop. A huge ton of information is also coming as we get now into Star Citizen Live. Now, I'm not going to get into every single point they talked about. I will link it down below. You guys can check it out. I always recommend checking out the source material, not just taking my word for it. In case I get something wrong, I try not to. But there might be things that I pass over that you might want to hear about. But some of the things that caught my attention, and certain ones that piqued my interest enough that I will actually include the clips from those, and you guys can hear them for yourselves. But they did get into ground vehicles. They do plan to do more kinds of ground vehicles, and they want to make improvements to the overall handling and gameplay with vehicles and how they intend for them to be used. They also talked about needing a solution to hangars for vehicles and vehicle elevators that will allow larger vehicles to be called in, as the freight elevators are too small for larger vehicles currently, and a lot of hangars can't be driven out of. The ones I have, they're all above my head. This was mainly speculation on the hangar front, however, not upcoming plans. The gist of it all was that they do want to add a lot more reasons to actually use ground vehicles in the future. John Crew said that a couple new ship weapon types will be coming from Squadron 42 to the PU in the new future, along with this being the year of the beam weapons. We've seen that with the Volt and now the beam weapon on the Idris. They're also designing a way for ballistic ship weapons to have a magazine of some kind, but not every ship will have this feature. What they did say about these magazines is that some might actually be on the outside of the ship, perhaps like smaller fighter ships, but for larger ships that have multiple turrets like the Hammerhead, they want to eventually have something like a place on the wall where you put boxes of ammunition that's close to the cargo area where you have your ammunition stored, and somebody can do that, and then the ship itself will reload the weapons. But they do want us to have the ability to reload ballistic ship weapons at some point in time. They did bring up the topic of using the Mobi-Glass for remote door opening, and for this one, I'm just going to let them say it themselves.
Can the Mobi-Glass ship interface include remote control of doors, elevators, and cargo ramps? So we've been talking about that for years.
Desperately want this to be a thing, pushing on it internally. Again, it's not directly in my wheelhouse, so it's subject to other teams' schedules and directions. But yes, being able to unlock, lock, open doors from your Mobi-Glass for your ship.
Yeah, it's hard. At the beginning of this year, this is a good time as any to reiterate this. You know, at the beginning of this year, we had Benoit on and talked about the big change in focus of this year. This year's focus for feature teams is on closing Squadron 42 out and improving stability and performance without introducing the stability and hits that come with new features. We don't know how long that's going to last, but we're definitely still in that period right now where we're still refining, we're still fixing up the PU, stuff like this. So it's not an anytime soon kind of thing. Just to put a little expectations management on it. But a lot of these things, we've got this laundry list. There's things that we're all chomping at the bit.
I know that the team that's doing it has a lot of stuff, and it's a lot of stuff that players have asked for, like the 3D landing camera on the radar. Like they're doing that before this.
Yeah, but it's always been, it's the choice in years previous has always been go to the new feature, and this year we've made the choice to go to stability, to go to performance like this, and that benefit is very apparent already, and there's still more work to do, and there's still more that we're going to continue to do. So while it can sometimes be hard to accept the weight for this thing that everybody wants and whatnot, I still think it's the right decision this year, and I think a lot of folks would probably agree. This focus on stability and performance this year is paramount, and then the eye of development so on will turn back to new features for the PU at some point.
So that sucks. But yeah, they obviously still want to do it, and I'm happy with that. I so wish that was on the horizon. Now, I mentioned this earlier on with the Anvil Valkyrie, but they did also mention that dropships in general in this game need some love, as they are not durable enough to survive the combat. So they're talking about adding more armor, adding more countermeasures, stuff like that. They want these dropships to actually be usable for the task that they were made for. Now, I've been in this community for long enough to know that the Caterpillar is an ever-present source of contention and love among our community. So for the Caterpillar lovers out there, John got specific about its future possibilities here. I will let you hear what he has to say himself.
Will ships like the Caterpillar and Kraken have cargo lift functionality? Loading and unloading on the ground is currently cumbersome.
The
Caterpillar is an interesting.
The Caterpillar is an interesting pain point. So we recently changed the side doors to go down to the ground to sort of improve that, and it sort of improved some things, made other things worse. That's not how we want to do it. I think retrospectively, if we were designing the Caterpillar today, it would not have doors like that.
Knowing what we know today versus what we knew in 2013. So
we're sort of hamstrung by that design. Whether we'll entirely redo that, I don't know yet. But we do, if it stays in that design, we do still want to have the 3-state doors. The current limitation with the existing door tech, and I saw someone moaning on Reddit about this today. Doors in Star Citizen have 2 states, open or closed. The Caterpillar doors, side doors, are doors, so they are closed or they're open, and it's just where that open state is. So we chose to move it all the way down to the ground to improve things. We can't currently add a 3rd interim state, so open and keep it there.
Yeah.
We do want to have that state, but that, again, it's a feature. Anyone that's ever worked in games knows how horrendously complicated doors are. It's the big meme.
Doors and elevators.
Doors and elevators. And we can't use elevators or transit because they're essentially using platforms, which we could get them to rotate and translate, but you wouldn't be able to have all the synchronized animation for all the pistons on the side. That's why we have to use doors. And that's why we're stuck with 2 states.
Trying to think about how those patch notes would go off. We've added 8 elevators to your Caterpillar.
Yeah.
No! The deadliest ship in the verse.
So there you have that. The Caterpillar is going to still stay not quite as functional as people would like. I really wonder what they're going to end up doing with this ship. I personally foresee a complete redo of this ship somewhere down the road, or like a completely new version of it. Caterpillar version 5, something like that they'll justify in lore. Because that came out of the old design of ship making before they got their current metrics or all that. And it's a constant fight for them with that ship, according to everything I read in the community. So that's what's going on with that, folks. I hope you're willing to see where it goes from here on that. But moving on. On that note, the next point that tweaked my interest was John describing the difference between a ship getting a Mark II variant or needing to be redone or reimagined. Take a listen.
The question that is starting to prop up more and more is what necessitates or drives the reason for a Mark II versus just update the existing one. And really that comes down to we can do a Mark II for something that functions, and we just want to sort of deprecate the visual style of it. The Hornets, for example, there's nothing wrong with the Mark I Hornets. We just wanted to have the cooler Mark II Hornets visually out there. But for things like the Reclaimer, if we made a Mark II Reclaimer, we've still got to make the Mark I Reclaimer actually function how it's supposed to function with the salvage mechanic.
Yeah,
at which point, that's redoing a lot of it.
Yeah.
So there won't be like a Mark II Reclaimer. The amount of work will just be an updated Reclaimer.
Now, when you think about it, that makes perfect sense. Do a Mark II. If it's functionally the same in the game, then it's just a variant that looks different. That's fine. What he said there about the Reclaimer, though, is more interesting. It makes sense when described that way, but why they would have to redo a ship or whatnot. It does make me wonder at this point, which of the older ships are going to get Mark II variants, or which ones are going to get full reworks. Like, for instance, the Constellation series. That's a fan favorite. That's my favorite, to in full transparency. But that's a fan favorite. But it's distinctly old school. It's old class, and it's got some design flaws that even CIG admits. And it doesn't fit the current metrics of the game. Is that the type of ship that's going to get a Mark II or a full redo? Or is it something that's like fundamentally incapable? Just there's no way in hell to keep it looking the same and have it function because of metrics. That makes me wonder what ships are going to get that treatment in the future. And finally, for Star Citizen Live, one big question that I've had for the past while regarding the whole Maelstrom damage system with the vehicles, and if it could honestly be brought to the PU. Squadron 42 is much more focused, is much less overhead for your PCU to process than in the PU.
Can ship hull damage and breakage effects, as seen in Squadron 42, that's Maelstrom, be implemented in the PU?
Yes, that is the plan. Maelstrom is full speed ahead in Squadron. My team and a lot of other teams are working on it currently. I think they are about, at the time of recording, about, I'm going to say 70% of the way through converting
That's more than I would have
the ships required for Squadron
okay. That makes
to
more sense.
Maelstrom. So it's been built in a way that facilitates, we take the existing damage model that's in Star Citizen, press a few buttons, that's the Maelstrom version. It visually behaves the same, but it's using all the physical behaviors under the hood of it. That's converted to Maelstrom. That's the 70% quote. After that, Tech Art and Art can go in and chop it up more if they wish.
Make it better,
Make
more
it
dynamic.
better, shinier, break into more parts, make it more believable. And that's been done on a case-by-case basis. So we're doing all the hero ships, all the ships you fly and fight the most are getting that first. So the actual like fully Maelstromed conversion is a lot lower percentage. But overall, we're quite a long way through it. There's a lot of ships used in Squadron, but a lot of them are only used once. So they're just going to get the PU damage model ported to Maelstrom, done.
I'm going to be honest, I did not think that they were that far along with Maelstrom. I thought that was a much more complicated process. Well, maybe it still is, but I thought they would have been a lot further behind on this, just because they haven't really said how far along they are with it in Squadron. They've shown it off a little bit in CitizenCon videos, but just as teasers, the way ships break apart, the Gladius shooting at those stone archways, but they haven't really shown it off too much. So to hear that they're that far along, kind of impressed me. I'm glad to hear that. Hopefully that means we won't have to wait quite as long. Obviously we're going to see it in Squadron 42 completed probably before we do in the persistent universe. The persistent universe is going to make it more complicated, obviously, just because of the added overhead. But the fact that it's this far along is a nice surprise to me. I honestly wasn't expecting that. And so much for all the positivity, because at the same time that this all happened, CIG, of course, once again had to stick its foot in its own mouth and drop some new items in the store for money that caused the pay-to-win and scammer crowd just to come out of the woodwork. So, I have to discuss it because it is part of the news of the week. Now, because this is Star Citizen and monetization is such a touchy subject for some people, I'm just going to put out my thoughts on this right now. Don't buy more than the base package. It's what I've said from the beginning. I have ignored my own advice. I bought a Cutlass 10 years ago. When I first saw 3.0 and you could walk on a planet with no loading screens, and I saw where this project was going, I thought, okay, I'll give it a go. I haven't spent a dime since. If there is one thing that I agree with anybody else critical of this program, it is the monetization that CIG chooses to use and how much some of these things cost. Ships being $1,000 for a video game seems ridiculous, but people with the disposable income who are willing to spend on it, go right ahead. Okay, I would never do it, but go right ahead, and it is part of the funding model of the game. Okay? However, that being said, I don't think that the current new flight blades that they've added in, and the missile racks and whatnot, the module things that they've added that you can switch out on certain ships, are anywhere near worth the level of money that they are asking for them on the store page. I'm not going to put up the store page here because I don't want to incentivize anybody to buy something like this. The idea of a flight blade that makes you slightly slower but a little bit more maneuverable, very minorly, like 0.5% or 5%, whatever, being charged at, US dollars, $40 or $50, I think is ridiculous. I think CIG and their monetization of this game and the prices they charge are not healthy. They're not in the best interests of anybody, and I think they need to tone it down. Okay, I do not approve of the prices they charge for this game. That being said, they put out the new flight blades. They didn't go through PTU access. They didn't go through Evocati. They were just dropped into live with this new 4.1.1 patch. What are flight blades? Well, they are modules that you can put in certain ships that either make your handling a little better at the cost of your top speed, or your top speed a little bit better at the cost of your handling. So however you look at it, if you have a Mustang against a Mustang and one of them has the top speed module in it that someone has paid money for, they will be slightly faster than you. So there is, quote unquote, the competitive advantage, pardon me. I fail to see why anyone is interested in this. The fact that it does so little to change your ship or anything at all boggles my mind that anyone would buy them in the first place. However, CIG is causing a ridiculous uproar by charging this money for things that people see as giving competitive advantage, and of course immediately pay to win went up. Everywhere, pay to win. Even though everything CIG has done so far that comes out on the store exclusively comes out to the PU for in-game credit that you don't pay money for within a couple of patches. I'm sorry, I don't buy the pay to win. I think that whining is absolute nonsense. Just because it's going to last for a month or two. Are you seriously incapable of waiting a month or two for a slight upgrade to your flight statistics in a ship in a video game that you can't wait to and not pay $40 for it? Really? I agree with the people who think that CIG charges ridiculous amounts of money, but the level of vitriol I have seen over these blades, these flight blades, is absolutely insane. I think people need to exhibit some self-control. If you don't like them, don't buy them. It's not a finished game, and it's not Call of Duty. It's not a competitive environment. If I am in my prospector mining and someone shows up in a Gladius, all the flight blades in the world are not going to help me in combat against that other ship. This is an asymmetrical game. I recommend you do not buy these atrociously priced in-game items with real money. Straight up. But please, folks, stop freaking out about it like it's the end of the world. It's not. It's a video game. Just don't buy it. Anyway, I'm going to leave that there. This is a ridiculous argument that comes up repeatedly. And it's always because, to be fair, CIG does their marketing things and does stuff like this in a boneheaded manner all the time. They should know by now that if they drop something that's even slightly more advantageous on the shop before it goes into the live environment, if it's anything less than the ship, people lose their minds over it. Fair deal. They shouldn't have done it in the first place. You know what's going to happen, but at the same time, it's not that big of a deal. I'd rather move on. I am focusing on the fact that so far, to my experience, this patch has been epically good. I've been playing it for hours at a time now with very little problems, other than NPCs not working as lifelike as I would like them. But once I get off the main landing zones, things are working really well. Overall, I am liking what I'm seeing, barring this one stupid pledge store thing. In the game itself, I am liking what I am seeing, and I hope they keep moving along those lines. Here's hoping they can pull their shit together and quit tripping over their own toes whenever they do put out something that's awesome that the players should all be buzzing about instead of causing the drama. In any case, that has been this episode for our Star Citizen weekly coverage. I am now going to go finish and edit this, upload it for your hopeful enjoyment. If you did enjoy it, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to hear more. Please do sound off in the comments. I do want to know. I please ask you to remain civil if you disagree with me on the whole pay to win thing. You are entitled to your opinion. Don't be an ass about it. Until then, though, I have been Rayjet Games, and I will see you in the verse as I now go to play more 411.